Alrighty, welcome to our lesson on age structure diagrams. And before we start talking about them, let's talk about what one of these is. So it's a diagram that shows the ratio of males to females that exist in a population, whether this is a country or any, other particular population you're talking about. And it distributes this by age group. So you can see, for example, how many females you have between the ages of 0 and 5, how many males you have between the ages of 40 and 45. The population usually ends up getting divided into three separate groups that are significant. The pre-reproductive ages, these are very young individuals. The reproductive ages, this is when people are physically able to reproduce. And then the post-reproductive age groups, which are going to not be able to reproduce anymore after a woman has reached menopause, or when a man is generally not going to be having children anymore. This is important because if you look at what portion of the population is in either the reproductive or the pre-reproductive groups, you can judge how many people will be added to the population in the near future. If you have a very large part of your population in the reproductive group, they may be reproducing in the next couple of years. If you have a very large part of the population in the pre-reproductive groups, then when they reach reproductive age, you can expect a boom or a large increase in the population. This can help you predict future population trends. So, countries' leadership may look at age structure diagrams and see, okay, are we predicting that we're going to have a rapidly growing population? Or it can reveal the impacts of historical events on a population. So, for example, if you see a large bulge in an age structure diagram, that could indicate a baby boom. If you see a large decrease in an age structure diagram, or kind of a pinched area, that could indicate something that caused a large amount of deaths. So, for example, in countries in Europe around World War II, you'll see a kind of pinched in area with people of a certain age who died in the war. They're going to be a smaller portion of the population. And then after that, there was a baby boom. So you'd see them making up a larger portion of the population. So, how do we read an age structure diagram and how does it look? Well, on your y-axis, you have age measured in years. And then on your x-axis, you're measuring what percent of the population you're looking at. So this shows you the proportion of the population that's going to be in each of these age groups, not necessarily a straight number. So all the bars that are to the left of the y-axis are usually going to represent the male parts of the population. And usually there will be some sort of label to tell you which side is measuring male, which side is measuring female. Each of these bars shows you the percent of the population that's in that age group for that gender. So on this diagram, we have from 0 to 15 years of age, 10% of our population is in that age group. If we look at this next bar up, from 15 to 30 years of age, for this hypothetical population, 8% of the population is in that age group and is male. All the bars to the right of the y-axis are showing you the female parts of the population. And just like with the males, each of the bars is going to show you what percentage of the population is in that age group for that gender. So this would be from 0 to 15 years, and this is again 10%. Now, the population pyramid or age structure diagram that I made happens to be symmetrical and has equal amounts of males and females at each stage or each age, but that's not necessarily going to be true. So you might have a little bit of an imbalance, more males on in certain age groups, more females in certain age groups. I will say that one trend you'll notice is that you tend to have more older females in a lot of these diagrams because females tend to live, or women tend to live to higher ages than men. All right, so these are four major types of age structure diagrams that you'll see. The big thing to take away from this is if you have a wide base, that means you have a lot of young people who are going to be entering the reproductive stage of life soon, which means they're going to be adding to the population. So this is going to be rapid growth. And usually the base is like disproportionately wide. So really wide, that wider the base, the more rapid the growth is going to be because you have more people who are going to be entering reproductive age soon and contributing to the population. If you see more of a triangle shape, especially if the base is a little narrower, so even like, sorry, let's say like that, that's going to be slow growth. There's still growth because the base is wider than the top of it. So you will have more individuals entering reproductive age, but it's not going to be as dramatic growth as you see with that extra wide base. If you have this kind of half oval kind of parabola shape, that is when you have a stable population um, around like you don't have a particularly wide base, so that's why it doesn't have that triangle shape, and you do have a large portion of your population in the kind of approaching the end of the reproductive stage or past reproductive stage. And then in some cases, when you have a narrow base, that means you're going to have a declining population. So some countries are seeing a decline in their population, and they have a narrow base to their age structure diagrams that shows few people are going to be entering reproductive age soon compared to the rest of the population, and they might have higher percentages of their population that are going to be in the older or post reproductive stages of life. So some trends, the wider the base, the more rapid the population is going to grow. That is because more people are going to become of reproductive age and then add to the population. When you have about equal amounts of people in your pre-reproductive and reproductive age groups, that's going to be probably pretty close to zero population growth, which means you're not adding to the population or decreasing it. This is that stable growth population. So you're not having an increase in the population size. Population stays stable. If the base is narrower than post reproductive, then your population is going to decline. All right. Am I a watermelon? Well, that's the closest thing I could find to a triangle or a pyramid shape.